Welcome to another mini episode of the Authentic Man podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about, this is something that a few people have asked me about recently around approaching women and talking to women in a way that is authentic, that is genuine, that is a way in which you can bring your best self to the situation. Because obviously the name of my podcast is Authentic Man Podcast, but I'm all about doing your best to connect with people in a way that allows you to connect with them, with who you are, and to connect with who they actually are, and to remove the manipulation, right? Because it's very easy for us to get into states of manipulation because, we think that we need to get to a certain place, and to do that, we need to do certain things. But I'm telling you that you can bring who you are, and when you can bring that with a calmness and a presence, people will feel that, and it will make a huge difference, right? So this is kind of how can you approach women authentically? How can you give yourself a best chance of approaching a woman when you go and speak to her? Be that in a club, a bar, on the street, in a coffee shop, or wherever you approach women, right? And I'm not necessarily going into the ethics of whether you should be approaching women or not. I'm going to have to let you make up your mind on that, because ultimately, there's times when women want to be approached, there's times when they don't, and sometimes you don't know which is which until you go over there. So the first point I have here is letting go of the idea that she's perfect. Like, I speak to a few people on Instagram, and I speak to my coaching clients, and they're like, oh, when I see a girl, she's so perfect. How's she going to be interested in me? And I say, how do you know she's perfect? And they say, oh, just look at her. How she's dressed, how she looks. And I was like, that's about 5% of who someone is. Okay, maybe 20% of who someone is what they look like. When you include like the way they walk, the way they dress, what they look like, how they've done themselves, right? They've got 80% of a human being you don't know. So actually you don't know this person's perfect. So let go of this idea that they're perfect. They're perfect for you because of the way they look. Because it's just looks. Some of us won the genetic lottery. Some of us feel we won the genetic lottery, right? And some of us feel we didn't, right? And that's also looks are very subjective, and they're very cultural. Right? They're subjective in country to country, but they are subjective from person to person. So you may think she looks perfect, but she may not think the same way about herself. So you're making a big assumption this is perfection. So let go of that idea of that she is perfect. And then the next thing is, when you're approaching a woman, let go of this idea of where it has to go. This need, this very grabby need, this very much of like, oh, if she doesn't, losing my words. This need to be like, oh, this has to lead to this, whether that's sex, whether that's a date, whether that's a phone number, whether that's being your girlfriend, right? Because, when you're walking over or where you're thinking about talking to a woman, often the story in your mind is like, my God, we'd be amazing together, we'd have amazing sex, and we'd have a great wedding. Like, guys, I know guys think like this because I talk to them, right? So let go of that and just be present to the person in front of you, and just be present to, I'm going over to speak to this person. And this ties in perfectly with my next point, which is, be incredibly fascinated by this human being. I got this from Jaguar Heart. I used to say, be curious, right? And I agree, be very curious about someone, but also be really fascinated in who they are. Be fascinated in who they are as a person. Be really interested in getting to know them for who they actually are, not the assumptions you're making about them or the presumptions you're making about them. Actually, be really fascinated to be like, who is this person? What are they about? Who they are, right? Let go of the looks and all the judgments and all the superficial stuff, and actually try and really connect with the person in front of you, the human being that's in front of you, as a human being, not as an object of sex or lust, but as a human being, because this will completely shift how you talk to people. If you be like, wow, I really want to know who this human being is. I want to know what they're about, what they enjoy, and actually spend the time to be present in the moment and listen. Very important part of it is to listen, right, to anything they say to your responses, and be in that moment, because that's something that a lot of guys get lost. We get so lost in our heads, all this thinking, that we don't actually stay in the present moment and kind of feel the person in front of us, and there's various practices that I give to my coaching clients to really learn to feel the person in front of you. So you want to be getting to know their joys, their loves, their quirks, because everyone's got their quirks. Everyone's got strange things about them. Everyone's got weirdness about them, right? I've never met anyone in my life who didn't have a weirdness about them. So just be in the moment of getting to know that, right? Put aside this need to be liked. This need to be like, she has to like me. because this puts you in a very narrow band of your own expression. Because if you feel she has to like you, you're going to remove anything and stick it into your shadow, into your backpack behind you, of anything you think she may not like about you. And the thing is this is an assumption you're making, again, based on the very little information you have of like, oh, she's not going to like the fact that I play computer games, or she's not going to like the fact that I collect stamps, or she's not going to like the fact that, you know, I love to run on the beach in the morning at 6 a.m., right? And you'll hide all those things, but actually they may be things that this person with their quirks and their weirdness may love about you. So be open with who you are, right? And like be there and be present to who you are and be present to who they are. So it's such an important thing. And the next point here is, and this might sound like an odd one, but it's a very important one, is be willing to be silly. Be willing to be silly, be willing to be a little bit weird, and be willing to make mistakes. Because when we do that, we bring all of who we are, and we stop this idea of like having to hide lots of things about us when we start talking to someone, right? Because this is one of the things I see is that you spend so much time thinking about what you shouldn't say that you're not able to be present with the conversation and actually getting to know someone and actually talking to them and finding out about who they are. Because you spend all this energy in your mind going, I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't talk about this, I shouldn't talk about that. No, she'll think that's weird. No, that's a bit strange. We're all a little bit fucking strange. We're all a little bit weird. We have our quirks, right? And it's just like when we bring those out and we unashamedly, you know, bring those on show, we realize that other people do connect with us. It's our imperfections that people connect with, right? Really, at the deeper level, at the level that you're really looking to connect with people, it's our imperfections that allow us to connect. And this last point is a really, really important one, because we hang a lot of our ego. Our ego hangs a lot of meaning on the fact that this person needs to find us attractive. They need to find us likable and valid. And if they don't like us, then we are none of those things. So what I say here is, if the woman you speak to isn't into you, right, for whatever reason, it might be she's got a boyfriend, it might be that she's just not into you, right? That doesn't suddenly mean that you're not attractive, that you're not a good man, that you're not a decent guy, that you'll never find anyone, and all those things. Let go of that. That's just your future kind of anxiety projecting forward and placing a lot of meaning on this single interaction or whatever interactions you're having, right? So it's a story that's created to create a heaviness, to create fear inside you. Just let go of that, because ultimately that conversation is all it means is what you've had in there. That's it. And then it's gone, right? It doesn't mean you're a bad human being if she's not into you. It doesn't mean you're a bad man. You're not man enough and all these things, right? Those sorts of thinking it's just not true, right? We create this because we are afraid and we have these stories of our own, but just let go of a lot of that story stuff, right? So that's it. That's it for me. There's just some mindset things you need to get right when it comes to, you know, approaching women, and just be respectful of, obviously, you know, there's a level of consent as well. If someone's like, hey, I don't want to talk to you right now, then you just take that. That's cool too. Just like, you know, that's cool as well. You know, and also I'd say, you know, when you go and talk to someone who's a stranger, the first 30 seconds to a minute for both of you is always going to feel a little bit strange, you know? So just be with that. Just be with that feeling, you know? If they're still talking to you and it's, you know, moving smoothly, even if it feels a bit odd, just, you know, just chill, relax, be with that feeling, be with whatever you're feeling in that moment. Because ultimately, once we get past that first minute or so, we often realize like, oh, this person's quite nice. I quite enjoy talking to them, right? But again, you've got to use your own discernment when it comes to, you know, approaching people and where you're doing it. Make sure you're doing it in places that's, you know, public and stuff like that. It's not like you're walking up to women late at night in a dark alley, you know, and be mindful of the setting, you know, whether it's a bar, whether it's a gym, whether it's a coffee shop, and whether someone even wants to be talked to, right? Because you never know that until really you start talking to someone. And if they do indicate to you that they don't want to talk to you, then that's totally fine. It doesn't mean anything about you. You can move away. You can leave. You say, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. So that's enough for me today. You know, if you've enjoyed this video and you're watching it on Instagram, then go look back on some of my past videos. I do these all the time. If you listen to this podcast, you know, go and check out some of my other episodes about various topics that I've done that, you know, you probably find interesting. And also, if you're interested in something like coaching and help with this at a deeper level to really help you create the relationship you desire, please just hit me up with a message. Yeah, just feel free to hit me up with a message. And yeah, have a wonderful day and look after yourself.